trying to prove to the mainstream media, because now they're starting to talk about this whole birth being fictitious coming from Meghan. So she's trying to put out there to the haters, look, it is me giving birth. See, I'm in the hospital dancing like a skank.
She's got form for strapping on baby bumps.
There's something very wrong with that shape, in my view.
I think they split within 12 months.
Developing today. It was the slut job that ricocheted around the world for all the wrong reasons. Meghan Markle believed that she would finally put to rest the ongoing and, I believe, very accurate speculation that she had been wearing a moon bump, given that if these children were not born by Meghan Markle's body, then they are unable to sit in the line of succession, the royal line of succession. We're talking about Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, of course. Then this video. And let's take a look at some of it, because this video has horrified so many, because Meghan quite clearly here is in some type of moon bump. This is not a natural body position. That's before you even get to the fact.
For the longest time, she was never supposed to be part of the picture, not even a shadow. The world was shown one clean, glossy version of events, a royal romance wrapped in fairy tale language, 2 glowing pregnancy announcements, and children introduced as symbols of a fresh, modern monarchy. Everything looked flawless, polished down to the smallest detail, like a story rehearsed before it was ever told. But now, that shine is cracking, because a woman who says she was erased from that story is finally speaking. She goes by the initials DL, and according to her, she wasn't standing on the sidelines. She wasn't holding a clipboard. She wasn't watching history happen. She claims she lived it inside her own body. DL says she carried both children from the very beginning, from conception to birth. And she says the reason no one ever heard her name is simple. She was never meant to be seen, known, or remembered. Her silence, she says, wasn't bravery or patience. It was a condition, a rule, a price. She claims she agreed to disappear so that someone else could step forward as the face of motherhood, smiling for cameras while DL remained hidden from the world. For years, she stayed quiet. Not because she wanted to, but because she says she was bound by agreements that promised protection and compensation in exchange for total erasure. No interviews, no acknowledgement, no existence in the public record, just a life lived quietly off the page while another narrative played out in front of millions. And for a long time, that silence worked. Until it didn't. Now DL says the story the public accepted was never complete. Not even close. And she says she can't carry the weight of that silence anymore. According to her account, nothing about the arrangement was casual or improvised. She claims she was recruited through a discreet, high-level agency, one that operates far from headlines and public scrutiny. Everything was handled quietly, efficiently, and with one clear objective: carry the pregnancies, follow instructions without question, and then vanish once the children were born. No lingering connections, no future role. No trace. DL describes conditions that sound less like privacy and more like control. She says her movements were restricted, her contact with the outside world cut off completely. No casual phone calls, no unplanned visits, no freedom that might accidentally leave a trail. Her days, she claims, revolved around monitored rest, scheduled medical appointments, and long stretches of silence. She insists it wasn't framed as punishment or cruelty, it was framed as necessity. Precision. Everything was designed to ensure the same outcome: healthy births with no visible fingerprints. She says she signed detailed documents spelling it all out: compensation, confidentiality, and complete erasure. Once the babies were delivered, she would step out of the story forever, as if she had never existed at all. And for years, she did exactly that. The silence protected everyone involved, until silence stopped being enough. Now, DL claims she holds material that takes this out of the realm of rumor and drops it straight into legal territory. She alleges there are signed agreements, medical records, pregnancy timelines, ultrasounds, and written correspondence between lawyers and the agency that managed everything. According to her, this isn't about opinions or interpretations anymore. It's about evidence. Sources claim DL has secured legal representation and is prepared to testify under oath. More than that, she has reportedly agreed to DNA testing not privately, not quietly, but through formal legal channels. That single move changes the entire game. Because once lawyers and courts get involved, public relations can't control the pace anymore. Timelines matter, documents matter, biology matters. And at that point, silence loses its power. Behind palace walls, this shift hasn't gone unnoticed. While DL says she lived in isolation, another story was unfolding under bright lights. Cameras followed Meghan Markle through appearances, interviews, and carefully staged moments. There were smiles, soft lighting, and a visible pregnancy presented as natural, joyful, and effortless. To the public, it looked seamless, confident, reassuring. But according to DL, those two realities existed at the same time. She describes herself enduring the physical toll of pregnancy in silence while watching from a distance as someone else received the attention, praise, and recognition that usually follows motherhood. One woman, she says, carried the physical weight. Another carried the public role. And that contrast wasn't accidental. Visibility required consistency. Silence required obedience. DL claims she understood that imbalance and accepted it back then. The arrangement, she says, was never about fairness. It was about results. The children would be born, the narrative would stay intact, and the world would never ask how it all happened. Until now. Because once two pregnancies exist in two separate realities, one hidden, one performed, the questions become impossible to ignore. If one woman was never allowed to speak, what else was never allowed to surface? And how long can a story built on silence survive before it begins to fracture? Royal births are rarely quiet. For generations, they followed rigid, almost ceremonial procedures. Doctors appear on hospital steps. Official confirmations are witnessed and signed. Details are recorded and verified. Those rituals exist for one reason: to remove doubt. But in this case, those familiar markers were missing. There were no doctors outside the hospital, no immediate photographs, no traditional confirmations tied to the line of succession. Instead, the public received a simple announcement, a statement: the children had arrived. And that was it. At the time, it was framed as modern thinking, a desire for privacy, a break from tradition. But privacy doesn't require the elimination of protocol. The system designed to document royal legitimacy simply wasn't there. According to source claims, questions raised behind closed doors weren't answered. They were discouraged, not postponed, not clarified, discouraged. And when institutions built on record-keeping allow gaps, those gaps eventually demand attention. For a while, the image held. Appearances continued. The pregnancy narrative moved forward. But slowly, inconsistencies began to surface. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to feel unsettling. Moments where the pregnancy appeared unusually large or unusually low. Instances where movement caused sharp folds instead of natural shifts. Silhouettes that seemed to change from one appearance to the next. On their own, none of these moments proved anything, but patterns don't rely on a single image. They rely on repetition. DL now alleges those inconsistencies weren't natural at all. She claims specially designed prosthetic pregnancy bellies were used, molded to match different stages, worn to maintain a consistent public image. According to her, appearances were rehearsed, angles carefully chosen, every movement considered. The goal wasn't attention, it was credibility. But credibility collapses the moment something feels rehearsed instead of real. And then came the video that shifted everything. A hospital room, Meghan Markle, visibly pregnant, music playing. Movement meant to suggest labor was close. The message was clear: this is real, this is happening, nothing is hidden. But instead of quieting doubts, the video fueled them. To many, it felt staged rather than intimate, performative instead of spontaneous. What raised eyebrows wasn't the act itself, but the timing. The video didn't appear during the pregnancy. It appeared later after questions had already begun circulating. In crisis management, that's a red flag. When proof arrives after doubt, it rarely reassures. It invites scrutiny. And from that moment on, the conversation changed. People stopped asking whether the story was true and started asking why it needed reinforcing at all. Once that shift happens, control becomes fragile. Then came the paperwork. When official birth records surfaced, something immediately stood out. Meghan Markle's legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was missing. Instead, the documents listed a title, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. At first, it was brushed aside as clerical confusion. One side hinted the palace handled it. The palace hinted it came from Meghan's camp. No one claimed responsibility, no one explained it clearly. According to DL, it wasn't a mistake. She claims it was deliberate, a legal maneuver designed to blur accountability. Titles don't give birth, people do. And when paperwork shifts focus from an individual to an institution, tracing responsibility becomes harder. In royal systems, names are everything. They establish lineage, legitimacy, and legal standing. When something as fundamental as a mother's name is altered, it creates a question that refuses to stay quiet. Why change what didn't need changing? Up until this point, the story could still be dismissed as controversy. That ends with Prince Harry. DL claims he wasn't distant or unaware. She alleges he knew about the arrangement, visited her during the pregnancy, and even wrote a handwritten letter thanking her after the births. If that's true, this isn't just about personal choices, it's about the line of succession itself. The monarchy isn't entertainment, it's a constitutional structure built on bloodlines and law. Titles, inheritance, and public funding depend on legitimacy. If children in the line of succession were born under undisclosed circumstances, the impact isn't symbolic, it's structural. Sources claim quiet discussions are already happening. Legal advisors, constitutional experts, contingency planning. Not because guilt has been proven, but because risk can no longer be ignored. This is the line no institution wants crossed. And now, there's silence. No public denials, no legal threats, no carefully worded reassurances from a couple known for controlling their narrative. In spaces where image is everything, silence isn't confidence, it's calculation or fear. Behind closed doors, sources whisper about distancing, damage control, and protecting the institution from a truth it never expected to confront publicly. And at the center of it all are two children who didn't choose this story, now caught inside a question far bigger than themselves. DL says she's ready for DNA tests, ready for court, ready to let truth matter more than silence, no matter the cost. If her claims are confirmed, this won't be remembered as a scandal. It will be remembered as exposure. The moment a carefully built narrative collapsed under the weight of documents, biology, and time. The royal stage is quiet now. The lights feel dimmer. The voices have stopped. But silence isn't the ending. It's the pause right before the truth arrives.